All right, people, it's your man dS.TheInformed, and recently I've been doing a lot of mentoring and dealing with the youth, and going out and just doing outreach and everything like that. And a lot of my focus has been, directly into the school system, and part of that is me um, wanting to be a teacher. So one day while I was at a tutoring session, I was dealing with one of my students. It was a one-on-one session, and I just started writing. Like I pulled out a pen and a pad, and hold on. And I just started writing. Like I just took a piece of paper and just started jotting down notes. I've taken these notes and I've organized them and made them a little bit better. And long story short, the public school system is failing our youth. Poor schools and even poor students and families, they don't get the Joe Clarks, the Lean on Me movie with Morgan Freeman that they need. They honestly get nobody, A lot of the teachers that they have in these school systems are inexperienced when it comes to dealing with our youth. And I say our youth because, again, I work very closely with African American students and some Hispanics as well, predominantly Mexicans. Um, the troubles and the issues that we deal with as a people, they don't really know what it's like most of the time. A lot of these teachers don't know what it's like. They don't really understand. They try to empathize or sympathize with us. They try to care, and it's appreciated. But at the same time, you can't really do anything about it because you don't really know what it's like to go through. This one idea I have is kind of radical, but at the same time, I think it's true, and partially because I am studying to be a teacher, so I recognize it. And they have, they hire these brainwashed teachers who don't understand you, don't know much about the children, and they just expect them just to teach what they've taught them. It's basically somebody teaches you something, you go teach the exact same thing to somebody else without much modification. And then within the school system, there are such confines that you're not allowed to really go outside of. You don't have the time to give their 100% truth. You can't teach a history class and go off on a rant for 20 minutes about why this happened or why that happened because you're really not allowed to. Another thing is that the school system have created this means by which teachers can't really discipline children. And I'm not even talking about whoopers or anything, but I'm talking about the simple fact that you can't punish a child anymore. Like, sending them out. I understand you don't want to put a child out of class because that takes away from the learning. But at the same time, you have to deal with multiple disruptions which prevent you from teaching and therefore makes you an inadequate teacher because the students aren't learning anything. So it looks like you're not doing your job. And in reality, a teacher really isn't. And with that, students gain the upper hand because they become untouchable. Like, what can you do to me? You send me a timeout, so what? I was already acting up in class. I didn't want to learn anyway. And a lot of things become empty threats. Teachers can't really do anything. And that the example for that is like if a parent goes to their child and says, "If you do that again, I'm gonna whoop you, or I'm gonna put you in timeout, or I'm taking away something," and the child does it anyway, and the parent doesn't do anything. After a while, the child begins to understand, based on conditioning, that the parent is just trying to scare them with words, these empty threats, but they're really not going to do anything. So the child just becomes even more so, likely to continue these behaviors. Uh, One thing I'm starting to see as well is that parents are ignorant to the situations of their children in the school system and to the actions of their children in school, partially because a lot of them have come to not care. They just don't. They just kind of shrug it off. It is what it is. They don't care, or they're on the side of the child at all times. Good, bad, right or wrong, left, right, up and down. They're always going to defend that child no matter what, and that can prove to be problematic because, again, the child becomes untouchable, regardless of what I do. I know my mom's gonna have my back. My dad's gonna come out here and argue my case and be on my side. So they feel like they can get away with it. A lot of parents just don't know what's going on because they are being informed. Teachers don't take the time, or teachers write notes, or some people are in such poverty situations where They don't have a set. They don't have a phone. I was gonna say a cell phone, but cell phones aren't important. They don't even have a landline. They don't have any type of true connection without sending a note. And what kid you know gonna bring them a bad note and really give it to their mom? You know, and how many of us gonna take that home, knowing what comes next, if anything? And it also just comes to the fact that a parent being raised in the same system, learning from the same system, taking in the same information, and a lot of the fallacies that are in this information, they don't see anything wrong with what's going on. They don't understand the lack of true education and knowledge that's been given to their children. And as I said, as a studying teacher, things in college that I've learned, a lot of it is off, is wrong, is incorrect, or what they tell us in school, and then the curriculum, what we're expected to learn in college and what the curriculum is in elementary, middle, and high school, what we're expected to teach. They try to teach you this much in college, but you're only allowed really to teach this much. And the amount of stuff that's packed into that little bit, from what I've come to see, most of it isn't true, or it's a half truth. It's like, this is what happened, but there's a part of it that they don't tell you. Oh, this man did this, but dot 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 dot. We don't get to tell the dot 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 part. We only get to tell that this man did this. And with that, it's just like, what are we really teaching these children? What are we looking to teach these children? And what more so is, what are they teaching our youth? On a regular basis, you look at, we have Black History Month, and that fact is February now. So now Black history is about to be a big boom in teaching about Black history. But how much of it is really going to be taught that is different from what they taught us back when I was in elementary school 15 years ago? Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Abraham Lincoln freeing slaves. Malcolm X did this. They don't teach you much about Malcolm X, though. Or the Black Panther Party, or Marcus Garvey, or a lot of our African brothers and sisters who, out the top of my head, I can't say their names without reading them and get them correct, and I refuse to mess it up. All in all, the child is still failed. They're losing out. They're not gaining real knowledge. They're not learning any true stuff. And I just think this is horrible. And again, most parents don't even know that it's wrong, so they can't even help. And I'm starting to see a lot of enforcement of religious beliefs. And it's not really a forcing, but it's almost a thing of social assimilation without the will to deny. And I try to change it from forcing, because forcing is almost like you're going to do it. It's to a point where something becomes so common that society will make you want to do something simply because everybody else is doing it. People follow the crowd. Simply because everyone is celebrating Christmas. Of course the child's going to celebrate Christmas. Why can't I get presents? Why don't I get gifts? Why am I not allowed to receive these great things during this time of year? And I feel like that's off too, because a lot of the things behind certain religious beliefs, and especially holidays and things like that, are based on false or skewed or even partial information in the reasoning and culture and the traditions. Like, some of the stuff is just wrong. And again, some of the teachers don't even know because they've been raised in that. Some of the parents don't know any better because they've been raised that way. And now you have students who have been raised to believe in things and celebrate things and participate in things based on information that's not 100% accurate nor correct. This next part I'm going to read almost verbatim from my notes because it's very important. Students are placed in classrooms that are belittling to them as people, or even more so to their intellects. They are continuously left behind, left out, or even worse, moved forward in the school systems, which inevitably fail them because high school graduation requires specifics before finishing. Understand something. There are a lot of cases now in a lot of states that won't allow a student to be failed. And though that may seem like a good thing at first, when you get to high school requires a certain number of credits in order for you to graduate. Also with standardized testing. High school has one of the largest points where you have to have a certain GPA in order to graduate. And you can't get it on a D average. You know what I mean? So just a 1.0, 1.0, 1.0, 1.0, just getting D's and going through. You can't graduate high school that way. You certainly can't get into college. So even if you are allowed to graduate, now what? Because you have a 1.4 GPA, what school is going to accept you? Community college, institution, university college, university/college, system. So continuing on, most are just left to sit there for 10 to 12 years roughly. That's age 15 to 17, maybe 18, and rot away in the system until they're old enough to be put out of school, which leads to them ending up in the streets, which ultimately lead to the prison system. I work with a lot of students who are at risk of being put out of school because of constantly being held back. Can't fail them, but you can hold them back saying that they failed to reach the potential in which we felt like they needed to reach in order for them to be adequate in the 5th grade, so we want to hold them back in the 4th grade. Well, after a couple of years, you start to realize that, a child can be 15 years old soon, and he's only in the 6th grade. Well, a 15-year-old, which is supposed to graduate within the next 2 to 3 years, can't be in the school with middle schoolers. Bodies are different. Things change, things happen. And with these, they're high risk, so usually they just put them out. They can literally put you out. I think at the age of 21 here in North Carolina, more specifically where I live at, they can put you out at age 21 in high school, which makes sense because after 3 or 4 years where you're supposed to be graduating, it's time for you to go. But imagine that for a child with a 5th grade education at the age of 16, or the age of 15, excuse me. Like, now what? I don't know much. Obviously, my situation has been playing against me. What do I turn to now? And it's no shocker that while there has been a consistent rise in the amount of prisons that are being built around the country, there has also been more crowded schools, ridiculously high dropout rates, and the closing of schools, which is very bothersome for me. We can't fund, with taxpayer money, we can't fund schooling, keep the schools open, provide proper books and luncheons, and teacher payments, yet we can pay correctional officers and wardens and spend ridiculous amounts of money to hold prisoners in prisons for years at a time. And it's amazing to me because in the public school system, a child is only worth about maybe $1,200 to $1,500 if I'm not mistaken. There could be old information, it could be higher now, or it could be less now, I'm not sure. But I read in one report some years back in one prison, it might be others as well, some universal thing, it took about $3,000 a month to house a prisoner, feeding them and clothing them and washing their clothes and making sure they were at least borderline healthy so that they can live and everything like that. Triple almost, you know what I mean? If not just double the amount that a student gets in a year. $1,000 per student per school year. We're talking about triple that within a month's time. So multiply that by 10. You see what I'm saying? And yet we don't have the funds for that. And it's getting crazy. It's getting really ridiculous. And it's really starting to bother my spirit because dealing with these kids, you can see it failing. And that's the part that's really troublesome, is to actually be able to see it. A lot of us don't see it. We won't see it, and we don't understand what's going on. But when you start to see it, it becomes a very painful reality. And all in all, everybody wants to point fingers, but at the end of the day, the student is still losing. Parents want to blame the teachers want to blame the parents. Parents and teachers want to blame the government or whomever, but the child is still sitting there, lost and confused. And as schools are failing the youth and falling apart around them, they are being fed directly into the judicial system. Again, as I say, it's a pipeline. There's actually been a study that some psychologists and other experts have presented this thought and are troubled by its occurrences, just like me, where there's been a direct connection between the school system and the judicial system, to a point that some schools are even designed and maintained as prisons. And there's even some schools that have been made out of prisons, or vice versa. Schools shut down, modified some, make a prison out of it. And it's crazy that you can make such small modifications, such things that a feel of institution where you have white brick walls painted. You see what I'm saying? Always modify, confined in small places. Things like that. Dress code, nothing wrong with dress code, but when you get somebody used to dressing a certain way, you don't even have to impose it upon them later. And surprisingly enough, maybe or maybe not, the dark students, African American males and females, and we can say Hispanics, we can hit minorities pretty much, are made to feel worthless and secondhand. Like they're bound for failure. When in reality, next to the actual United States itself, like the land, the ground, the property, the acres and acres and acres of land that we have here, this continent itself. Next to this continent itself, we're actually the highest commodity in this country, the human body, and even more specifically, our bodies. And that really is no surprise either, because the slaves were the same way. The African / African American / black / whatever the heck you want to call yourself, Negro, colored, I mean, if you even do so now, nigga, has always been a commodity in this country, where we are of a high value but made to feel of a low value. Because if you understood your worth, how could they treat you the way they treat you, you know? But yeah, man, I've like I said, I've been troubled by this for a while. Things have been really crazy. I really don't know how I feel about it, you know? Well, I do know how I feel about it. I'm just at a point where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do about it. What can I do? You tell me. Alright, I've talked long enough. This video is about to push 18 minutes. I hope I haven't gone on too long. I hope this helps somebody. I hope this starts to open eyes so that people can see and understand that, hey, it's real. Like, there's a connection. There's a reason. And we need to start doing something about it. Get out, mentor. Get out, tutor. Get out, be a big brother, big sister. Work for the Salvation Army, the programs, or what is it, the YMCA, something, Boys and Girls Club. Get your cousins, take them to the park sometime, talk to them, play with them, teach them something. Because if not, we're going to continuously lose our youth, and the only thing we can do is sit like coaches on the sideline and complain that our players aren't performing to their best ability, but we're not getting in there and helping them. Don't be a spectator. Be a player. And with that, I'm out. dS.TheInformed. Peace.